Let's take a look at the data entry area of Logbook Pro Mobile on your Android-powered devices. There are four main areas for entering data: certificates, ratings, history, and flights. Certificates and ratings are straightforward. History is anything with an expiration item. You configure your history items in Logbook Pro Desktop in the Options History area. Whenever you change any of your configuration in Logbook Pro Desktop, always sync to the cloud by clicking Cloud Sync and then Sync Now on the toolbar in Logbook Pro Desktop. And then on the app, you can just come in, tap the Synchronize button on the top right. It'll do a quick sync, pick up the configuration, and you're ready to go. Let's take a look at the basic editors for all data entry. The first thing is you'll get a list of data that you already have entered. Obviously, we have no data at this point. On the bottom of all the data list screens is a filter where you can filter to show all data, your unsynced data, or your synced data. We always have the menu available with various options, such as adding an item, synchronization, purging or deleting data. We'll look at that in another video. Changing your filter, going to settings, or getting help on the area. So let's tap the plus button on the top right of the list, and that allows us to create a new item for the area that we're in. So we have our data entry fields. Just fill out the fields. For the date pickers, you can go ahead and tap the date, or on the right hand side, let's say we are not today. Anytime you see this little clock with a down arrow, that means now. So if we tap that, then we automatically change to today's date. We have remarks, which are optional. If there's a required field, whenever you tap save, you'll get a prompt that you have a required field that needs to be filled in. On the bottom, you'll see two checkboxes. We only see one right now because we do not have calendar integration available in the Android emulator. So if you have calendar integration turned on in your app in the settings calendar area, you're going to see a second checkbox that says bypass calendar. Anytime you create a new item and save it, and you have calendar integration enabled, that item will be written to your calendar as an appointment, so you can see on your calendar when you accomplished it. Pretty handy feature. For any type of future items, you can also get a reminder. So flight, for example, you can configure all this in the settings calendar area. Now, if you're adding an item and you do not want it to go to your calendar, you just check bypass calendar and then save, and then it will not be written to your calendar. Now, synchronized, anytime you save or edit an item, so you edit an item then save, or add a new item and then save, it's going to be marked as synced to go back to Logbook Pro Desktop. Now, if you don't want it to go to Logbook Pro Desktop, maybe it's already in Logbook Pro Desktop, but you want it mirrored here, you go ahead and add the item, check the synchronized box saying, hey, this item's already synchronized, so do not synchronize it, and then you can go ahead and save it, and it won't be synced. The other button here on the toolbar with the plus on the top allows you to save this entry and then create another entry right away. Let's go ahead and back out of this. You can see we have the back prompts enabled, which you can turn off in the settings area, but I do discourage doing that. And that way, if you're making an entry and you intend to save it and you tap the back button by any chance, you're going to lose everything you just entered. Let's take a look at the history area. Same type of interface. Choose the event. Again, these are added or configured in Options, History, in Logbook Pro Desktop. What date was it accomplished? And then you'll get the date it's due. Now you can always tap the calculator button, and it will automatically calculate based off the rules you defined in Logbook Pro Desktop in the Options History area. So again, the calculator button means calculate now based off of your accomplished date. So you can, again, set today's date, and anytime you change this date, the date due is going to automatically update for you. And the rest remains the same as previously discussed. So there's our item in the list. So let's go ahead and go back, and let's take a look at flights. Now we have one more filter item at the bottom of the flights, which is for pending flights. Pending flights are future flights, flights not yet flown, primarily for our airline pilots that are using the scheduling portal. But anybody that wants to enter future flight information in, you'll see a checkbox at the bottom of the flight editor, which allows you to designate the flight as a pending flight. In other words, it hasn't been flown yet. Let's go ahead and take a look at the flight editor, and we've got the flight date at the top. You can pick your aircraft type. We've set a default aircraft type in the settings flight log area. So for any new entries, it's going to use our default aircraft type. Now, if you've been making multiple flight log entries, we also have the new flight auto-populate. In other words, it's going to remember what you used the last time and use that for the next entry. So you can enter your N number, your route of flight. Now you can put your entire day. So if you fly multiple flights today, for example, you can fly RIC to DFW to LAX, and then you can put the number of legs. Number of legs equals number of flights, sorties for military, etc. Now, as discussed in another video, anytime you see this little button here on the right of the route field, for example, the little location pin with an airplane in it, if you tap that, it's going to find the nearest airfield to your current location and then enter that into the route field for you. It'll append it. So maybe you've been flying along a flight, you've just landed, you got out of the airplane, you can tap this, it will automatically enter the airport identifier for you. You've got the number of landings. Very easy. You can type it in, or you can use the plus and minus. For those pilots that log out and in and or takeoff and landing, then you can go ahead and tap to set. You can clear and type in the values. It's going to auto increment as well if you have that set up in the settings flight log area. As discussed in the other video on the time calculator, you have that available for each individual flight. And then we have the standard time input fields. Now, if you've entered an out in or a takeoff and land, you can go ahead and just tap the calculator button. It's going to automatically figure out the duration for you. These buttons to the right of these other fields will automatically enter the duration value into those fields, so you don't have to type. The approaches, you can go ahead and determine what approaches you flew. Tap save, and you'll see the total number of approaches, so you can specify each individual approach and how many. And then you can enter any type of custom fields you may have entered, just some test data in here. And so all of your options, custom type of fields from Logbook Pro Desktop. Now, if the flight hasn't been flown yet, you can go ahead and tap pending flight and check that field. And then whenever you fly it, you update your times, clear that and save it, and then it will sync back to Logbook Pro Desktop. On the very bottom is an internal field section. Now, this is really for the schedule importer users, for the information that is captured by the schedule importer but not logged in the flight log entry. It's available for reference only. It does not sync back to Logbook Pro Desktop at this time. So let's go ahead and tap save. And then we've got pending flights marked red. And then black would be the unsynced flights, and gray would be flights that have already been synced, or data that's synced. So unsynced would be black, synced is gray, and pending is red. So this has been an overview of the data entry area in Logbook Pro Mobile.